Joining us are Dato Dan Ikahu, who is Chairman Emeritus at World Information Technology and Services Alliance and mentor at Google, that we heard about earlier. Mr. Miles Ward, Chief Technology Officer at SADA, an insight company. Mr. Vahe Kazoyan, President and co-founder at Service Titan, local hero. Professor Badr Busabat, CEO at Crimoria. Mr. Hamad Mubarak Al-Hadri, founder and CEO of Snunu. And Mr. Andrew Truong, head of MENA Digital and Strategy Practice with Visa.
Nice to meet you. Likewise.
And our moderator, as they come up, for this discussion will be Mr. Ashkan Daba, who's co-founder and managing director of 01 Creative. Round of applause, everybody!
Yes,
thank you.
Thanks very much for joining. We have a really good panel lined up for this afternoon. We're going to talk about the key to digital age innovation. We're also going to just explore how integrating AI into business operations going to work, and about also transforming industries. Oh, can everyone hear me, by the way? Yeah. It's really hard to introduce them after that, but I think it's still worthwhile to just have an introduction from each panelist as well. Before that, I would love everyone to actually have a round of applause for our panelists, and then I will maybe ask Andrew to start with you. Can you give us a little bit background from yourself and the company and what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, can you hear me now? Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah. So, it's super interesting. So I am the head of the region for the digital and strategy practice at Visa. And when people think about Visa, it's such an interesting background because we've been investing into AI for years before people even talked about it. Visa is your trusted source. It's the source of how we think about money. And when you think about money, it's the connectivity of how you get from one experience to the next. And we want to keep AI in that flavor today. So our company is fully invested, not just in ways that we protect that money movement, such as things from risk, fraud detection, but we go beyond. And in my digital practice for the region, we look after how are we expanding that? How are we changing it to everyday experience, everywhere you want to be? That is our new Visa slogan, and we revolutionize that with AI.
It's amazing. So we're going to get back to that, but before that, Hamad, I would love you to introduce to the audience as well.
Hello, good evening, and beautiful country, Armenia. I can speak better now because I have very good Armenian food. And I came from Qatar. I'm founder and CEO of Snunu, and Snunu is the biggest technology company in Qatar. It's, in shortcut, it's Amazon, Uber, DoorDash, all in one. And I was under the same assumptions. AI about two things. It's about ChatGPT. You send a message, the AI answer you. And the second part, it replaces human, yeah? You just unplug human, you put AI. That's my impression. And I believe that we don't need, I always thought AI is something can work individual until I figure out how AI is something very good and can enhance your business. Actually, it makes us one of the fastest startups to be profitable. Later I can speak in details. And I'm happy to be here and share the insight and give you the power of mind of AI.
Amazing, thank you. Badr, floor is yours.
Hello, I'm so pleased to be there. I'm Badr Busabat, professor at La Sorbonne on AI and marketing, but I'm also focused on AI and ethics. And actually, to me, artificial intelligence is a hope. This is actually the name of my first book, because I really do think that artificial intelligence can shake up our life, but in a positive way. You know, in my point of view, artificial intelligence, of course, it might be either an ecosystem or a tool, but we can use it for a better place. It's a technology that's gonna, let's say, make the condition of living way better than ever, because the cost of surgery, the cost of any medicine will drop in the upcoming years, because artificial intelligence development will increase innovation. And when innovation is getting on a faster path, the cost decreases over time. And this is maybe, from an economic point of view, one of the best news we had in the recent years.
Amazing, thank you. And Wahab, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Vahe Kuzoyan. I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Service Titan. We make software for contractors, and while I'm extremely excited about the opportunities that AI presents today, over the short term, etc., I'm also extremely terrified about what it can do over the longer term. So I'll probably be the voice of a little bit of concern on this panel.
Amazing, thank you. And Miles?
Hi, I'm Miles. I'm CTO at SADA. SADA is Google Cloud's largest resale and implementation partner. We've been their partner of the year back to back to back to back to back to back to back. I think AI is an incredible opportunity, and it's an opportunity to get finally the computers to talk to us in our language, to speak to us in pictures and images, to interact in the real world as opposed to feeling like we're just stuck in this two-dimensional screen. I think it's an opportunity for every business here to take their employees forward to what's next, give every employee a promotion tomorrow. Looking forward? I am.
Amazing, thank you. And Dan?
Hi, I'm Dan Yiku. I'm the CEO of WCIT, the World Innovation Technology and Services Alliance. We are a global alliance that is made up of technology associations from nations in 80 countries and economies. So WCIT is also the owner of the WCIT platform. This is our 28th edition, and we're very pleased and proud that you're here with us. Personally, I've been an entrepreneur, I've been an ecosystem builder with government, and I've led nonprofits. So today, my role is a roll-up of all three, and I view AI as expanding the economic pie. And when I say pie, P-I-E, I think of processing power, I think of ingenuity, and I think of electricity, P-I-E. So we want to expand the pie, not just from the economic point of view, but the technological point of view as well. And I hope to lucid and talk more about that afterwards. Thank you.
Wow, I don't know how to top that. That's going to be tricky. But I was going to ask everyone to define AI, but I kind of feel like everyone already said it in a way. So perhaps we're just going to jump onto the next question, which was actually for Dan specifically, about AI's impacts in businesses, business models, and innovation. Specifically, I'm really interested to know about the new business models or transferring existing ones. How do you see the ecosystem of AI will evolve?
So I want to start by talking about the revolutions. I think I'm the eldest of the group here, probably. And I've gone through three tech revolutions in my time. The first one, obviously, was the personal computer revolution, the PC revolution. The second one in my time was the internet revolution. The third one was mobile. And to me, I'm living through the fourth tech revolution that I'm all excited again. I'm thinking of wearing shades because the future is so bright. I was an entrepreneur at the height of the dot-com boom. I had an opportunity to take two bites of the cherry. One was when my company, when I was a minority shareholder, and we took it public in a stock exchange in Malaysia. And then I had also a startup that I sold to a NASDAQ-listed company in Silicon Valley. So exciting times. I think back again, and our industry is so good at renewing itself, refreshing and regenerating itself. So in that regard, I view the impact of AI on technology and on industries and verticals in the same way that has swept industries all through those three earlier revolutions. The hype cycle is built, and then you see technology adoption life cycles that come in, initially with early adopters, the innovators, and then hopefully, and thankfully, in the case of AI, we've crossed the chasm, and we're seeing early majority adoption. The real impact and the productivity gains are going to come when the majority of the users adopt AI in a big way. So there's bound to be coming soon disappointment when early productivity gains are not visible, but look out for those things that will, they're starting to talk about contribution to the global GDP. For example, Goldman Sachs said that over the next decade, $7 trillion US in terms of additional contribution to the GDP. 1.5% in terms of the increase in productivity. 300 million jobs will be impacted. Not all in terms of job gains, some job change, some job losses. Hopefully, all of it is going to be positive. I'll pause at that and return that back to you, Ash.
Amazing. That was amazing. Great. So I think that's a good point. Actually, we can go to the next one. This one is actually for Miles. It's about operational efficiency and decision making. So my question to you is, how can AI be utilized to identify and address potential bottlenecks in business operations, specifically when it comes to the big data and big businesses?
Sure, everybody have all the data that you need. It's like super easy to use, very straightforward, there's no problems with it. You'll note there are no hands up in the room. Data's a real pain. It's complicated. And all the tools that are used to make it simple are not simple enough. Generative AI is building a whole new way to interact with your data services, ways that feel much more natural. I'll give you a tip. Try a new tool from Google called Notebook LM. You can take all of the information from the company you work for as public financial filings, take data as an output from recent performance systems or your application databases. You put it into Notebook LM. Not only does it summarize it, it makes it into a 15-minute podcast between two people discussing what's interesting, what's nuanced, what's specific in that set of data. Generative AI is creating enormous opportunities to get access to information much more quickly, not just by directly synthesizing information like Notebook LM, but assisting our analysts and SQL developers in writing clearer code, making it so that those systems are faster to build, more accurate in their results, make it so that we have easier access to the kinds of insights you would use to find efficiencies in your business, whether that's improving the efficiency of your cloud computing infrastructure, I know a thing or two about that, or whether it's in your manufacturing lines, your work with the customer service. There are opportunity after opportunity to find insights and data so much easier as a result of generative AI.
Amazing. Actually, on top of that, my question is, when you have a lot of data, and specifically from a company that is not traditionally AI-driven, and they want to transform it to become an AI-driven company, how would that transition look like? Do you see a path, for example, that they need to turn their data into a structured and clean data? Or do you see that probably very soon we will have a generative AI or a model that, as you just mentioned, just go through all of the data, even the one that is the old one, and just turn it into a clean data itself?
So it's very important. Generative AI is fascinating, but it's also catastrophically expensive. If you take all of your data and put it into a model, you're going to pay per token. That's per word or per character inside of your data. Instead, I promise it's cheaper to have an AI help you write SQL or help you write dbt transformation code or help you write Terraform code to be able to pull data together from disparate sources and make it available as summary or digests. That summary may be still too technical maybe for some of your analysts to interact with, and that's a much smaller data set to interact with using generative tools. The kinds of combinations, the hybrids between classical software, deterministic software, and new generative tools will make it so that these kinds of data integrations get much easier over time. Really encourage everybody to take a look at new tools inside of Google's Vertex AI that make it much simpler to interconnect data over APIs and make that a straightforward process for not only your analysts who are probably using things like Jupyter notebooks to be able to build simple workflows for data flow analysis, but also all the way up through Looker for dashboards and analytical views that your businesses can use to make crisp decisions.
And Ash, if it's all right, I know we said, I love what Miles said, and I would just add to it quickly. I mean, you wanted to ask earlier, what does AI mean? It's a lot of the evolutionary process of what don't we know. So if I were to say, as a business owner, you were saying, do I monetize this? Do I want to grow this? Well, you can ask generative AI a question like, how do I grow my business? And all of a sudden, it knows your business, not how do I grow a business, which is, again, everyone today will Google it, right? It's a verb. We say, hey, I'm just going to look this up. Best TV, what's the best way to fly? I came from Dubai. What's the cheapest flight here? You know, what should I eat when I'm in Armenia? It's my first time here. It can ask me that, but AI starts to know you. Generative AI takes it one step further. Your business sells plants. This is how a botanist would grow their business. This is the stage that you're at financially. So you can use it to look internally as much as externally to grow.
That's actually a good point. Just on that again, so maybe about Visa company itself. We know that it's actually becoming like a mark of 30 years for Visa as a pioneer in this field. How would you say the role of AI will actually implement in that company, specifically on top of what you said now?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question. I mean, a lot of folks, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, Visa's invested into AI for over 30 years. And people are like, what? If you actually think about what Visa is, we're a technology. We are the background, the network that powers and moves your payment. We're not the bank, we're not the creditor. We don't have that product. We supply and enable that money movement, that fluidity. We look at it with 4 different ways, right? AI has influenced us in speed, security, behavior, and most importantly, personalization. With that aspect, we looked at how we want to invest. We want to protect the money of our consumers. We want to protect helping small businesses. We want to help protect our money that we work so hard for and it's moving around. One thing that we really want to do is, did you know that last year we invested $3 billion into AI that saved 80 billion transactions? And overall, that amounted to billions in savings for our consumers, so that when you're spending online on e-commerce, when I'm buying on Amazon, when I'm buying on Shein, when I put my Visa card there, when I put any payment product, you're backed, you're protected. Your card's there, but you won't lose your identity. We're using AI to protect as well as personalize for you.
Wow. Yeah, but actually, as a personal note on that, I remember I was using one of the cards, and I was not in the same room, and the card was declined. It was just, I just gave it to someone else to do it. And then someone just called me back saying that, oh, someone's using your card. So I guess even on that level, it looks like there's a lot of development on the AI front specifically for the fraud detections, that sort of stuff.
And not just fraud, we take it one further. So in my job, I get to travel as I look after the entire region, 80 plus countries that we have to look after. It knows that my traveler profile starts to get loaded into Visa. Oh, he's traveling this week here, he's traveling that week there. Don't block this purchase. We can actually take it one further when we actually think about securing your token phone with your device. We can now actually do a quick check. When you tap your card, it'll GPS where your phone is. And then it'll be able to cross-reference that to say, actually, so I'm from Canada, I just moved to the region. Why is Andrew's phone back in Toronto, but someone's trying to make a purchase in Armenia? Is that really him? And then they start to raise flags. It starts to change the algorithm of who are you and how do we mitigate that type of fraud detection, make it early, reduce the load on the banks, and do that to protect you guys.
Wow, that's super interesting, super interesting. How about just we move on to Hamid and Vahe. I've got a question for you, which is not too far from what we were discussing so far. It's actually about the regulation challenges. So we talked about the fraud and different stuff that Visa is doing, which is great. But then what happens what do you think the challenges are when you're implementing AI in your company? Specifically, if you just merge with another company from another country, I assume that there's a lot of regulation and challenges comes in place. Start with Hamid.
Yeah, I can share my experience in AI overall. So I would say there is 3 ways of implementing AIs. So there is those AIs who's inside your business model. There is those AI who's out of your business model. And there is organizational productivity AI, like Notion and the others. So what we done, as Miles said, in our business model, we hire a bunch of data science, AI engineer, machine learning to start building our own solution because it's cheaper and it can be enhanced to our business model. And so when it's come to inside our business model, there is no regulation. We have all the freedom to do whatever we want. I can give you example. So it's super app. We have the operation side. We have the sales side, like, like the personalization of showing the product and the merchant in the app. The moment we implement personalization AI, our number jump 25% conversion rate. So the customer starts see a merchant monthly he will buy. That translates, you are not $300 million saving, yeah, but our GMV increased by 25%. And there is, in the upselling, as example, you go to the basket, it starts to recommend some product monthly you will buy. It's increased our basket size by $2. $2 multiple by 2 million transaction. Well, it's per month. We're still only in Qatar. But that's $4 million extra. How much is the payments I'm paying for my data science machine? To be honest, at the beginning, I had these assumptions. Oh my God, this data scientist machine learning AI, it's just R&D. I will pay money, I will never recover it. The ROI for those engineer is almost 2 months only. Only 2 months. So you have to identify which area exactly will impact your revenue. But also we've done the same with the operation. So we use some special AI combined with algorithm to identify the fastest route, the cheapest logistic partner, and sometimes it's come multiple orders together, and sometimes can separate them. So based on the, the cost of the trips, that save our cost by $1. Again, multiple by 2 million order. Total, if we combine this two AI, it's total $6 million saving or extra revenue. And that's how we became profitable in 2 years. But also there is the out of business model AI. So now we contract one procurement AI. And from the first month, this AI can identify how can we save money on contract. And it's from another country. Good things, not everything is regulated, but I would say majority of the time, regulation will hit when there is financial transaction like Visa. You cannot use any financial transaction until it's licensed, and license is controlled by, in Qatar case, it's, by QCB, Qatar Central Bank. And the third one is productivity AI. We thought before, AI in designing, it will replace designer. But actually my art director is originally from Armenia, he's here. He said, oh my God, I love AI. Now my designer, instead of do 4 jobs per day, he's doing 20 jobs per day. It's increased people productivity. Now even myself, if I want to put product plan in Notion, before I need to speak with 2 people to do the plan, now Notion can do it for me in 5 minutes. That even enhance. We use productive AI even for business finance. We have this business simulation. We ask the AI how to make this business profitable, that business specific business model. So overall, my experience, I'm talking about myself, AI, make the startup profitable, reduce the cost, enhance people performance, increase the productivity. And so far, we did not face any regulation challenge. I hope not. I think maybe this will happen when some government think that AI will do some jobs cutting. So I believe in a nation like Armenia or Qatar, both of us have 3 million people. For us, AI is good. But what about India? 1.4 billion people. They will feel definitely it will have some job impact there. It will impact, a country that have many low-paid people, maybe Africa, maybe also Bangladesh, Pakistan, maybe. But a country like US, they love to be more middle and higher paid people. Singapore, Norway, it will be good for them. So it's depends about.
Well, and what about you, Vahe? What do you think on just general about the regulations, challenges in AI deployment?
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge is, it's kind of like asking the question, how do you implement the power of the internet in like the early 90s? I think a lot of what's possible today versus what's possible tomorrow, it's really hard to predict. In our case, I challenge the team internally to really take a step back and think about what becomes possible that we never even discussed before. You know, the language that I use, it's like, in a world of knives, suddenly a gun has appeared, and we're all trying to figure out like how to really use this thing. And so internally, we look at things that today are done by people, or yesterday were done by people that was only possible by people, but today it's possible to use a machine. And so we built, I think, our product lines. We have about, I don't know, 11 different product lines. And probably about 3 or 4 of them are pure play AI SKUs that were simply not possible, even. And so that's kind of the current paradigm. We're also implementing it internally in terms of some products, whether it's making chatbots available to our customers in a way to deflect support tickets and reducing the, or it's implementing tools that our internal team uses to then be able to provide better answers. But I feel like we're super early days in terms of being able to really implement any of these things. And it's changing at such an incredibly fast-paced level where I actually think it's much more important to think about what is the trajectory of what you're doing and to put yourself in a position to even see what's possible, much more so than necessarily implementing things today.
That's really interesting. Really, really interesting. When we're talking about this kind of stuff, I would say one thing is always a very hot topic of conversation is the ethical side of the AI. So this question is actually for Badr specifically. So when it comes to that, what do you think are the key ethical considerations that businesses should prioritize when deploying AI technologies?
Business and economics without ethics, it doesn't work. We need to take into consideration these aspects. And by the way, it's a really difficult challenge. Why? A few months ago, I released a paper in collaboration with Swift on fairness AI in the financial sector, in the B2B sector, between banks. And I established one of the first frameworks aiming at scoring artificial intelligence in terms of fairness. And we had to find the underprivileged groups and the privileged groups within the financial sector. But this question is so difficult to answer because you need to understand that the financial sector is so complex. You have many institutions, they have different businesses. You need also to take into consideration the dynamic evolution of the financial sectors. You have some bank that evolves on a yearly basis. They try to adapt to the expectation, to the need from the market. So it's really difficult. But we created a framework. It's a foundational research. So you need to get criticized and to be rebuilt again, to, of course, perform some empirical research in order to find a new way of scoring this fairness. But at the end of the paper, I found a hope. And this hope is based on the fact that ethical development might be correlated to performance. Today we have regulators discussing about the future of artificial intelligence within the financial sector, but also in other sectors. And they try to, based on responsible AI family, to find a way to better conduct and coordinate the business development on Earth. And today, many banks, many institutions are lagging behind because they do not want now to internalize the understanding of the ethical foundation of artificial intelligence. But in my point of view, it's a great move to take into consideration the ethical standard. Why? Because you're going to anticipate the upcoming regulations. You're going to anticipate all these sanctions you will be facing. This is the true story of the financial sector today. You have so many banks combating fraud and money laundering, and they are hiring like countless of consultants with a really expensive daily rate. And it's so difficult to focus on the real strategy of the bank. they pay attention, they allocate their time specifically to follow these consultants to, let's say, comply with the existing regulation without allocating a specific time and a precious time to maybe reconduct the inner strategy of the bank. And today, banks are still lagging behind. They need to reconsider this aspect of ethical standards, fairness AI, responsible AI, expandability, and so on, in order to find a new place in the upcoming financial sector, which is going to be more complex than ever in my point of view. So today, of course, in the past, these banks missed this opportunity to anticipate all these regulation linked to AML, anti-money laundering, combating fraud. In Europe, you have, for example, this unaccredited regulation and so on. And now they're paying the price. And it's, I mean, very expensive to follow all this regulation line per line and find the right consultant to do that work. But today, we have a new opportunity to find our way and to be competitive again. And it's about anticipating these ethical standards. So that's why today all the financial sector, all the banks need to train their own employees in order to prepare them for this upcoming, let's say, financial sector that's going to be more data focused than ever.
I'll say one thing on that.
Absolutely.
It's a way and maybe an easy framework to keep in mind that this stuff isn't as complicated maybe as we're all making it sound. All of us, I promise you, every single one of you are familiar in a very personal way with a very old, very terrible kind of artificial intelligence. We call them companies, right? They are incorporations of rules. We use people to boss them around, but they do these fairly inhuman things from time to time. And we have very robust ethical frameworks around companies. We have to think of now our technology has the ability to incorporate at the press of a key. So we need faster regulation, we need faster ethical analysis, we need faster decision making, but it's not coming from a whole plain cloth. We have a lot of experience with managing and regulating companies. I think that really applies to the way that we'll regulate AI.
So would you say on that, would you say like we need to be faster in regulations, but perhaps we need to change the structure slightly as well of how the regulation works? Because I think usually when there's a new regulation or there's a new law, it's usually it's easy to add them, but it's really hard to change or remove them.
Sure.
So perhaps do you say it would be like a chance that we need to also restructure how we regulate this stuff and we keep changing them?
We have to anticipate that the change rate for absolutely everything must increase, period. Does not matter whether you're talking regulation or hiring standards or how to evaluate accuracy in these systems, all of our ability to change the definition of our jobs, our objectives, our goals, all of that has to move faster to keep pace with a technology that helps all of us go faster.
Yeah, and I would add to that exactly that, because as the technology grows faster, we need to also look at what it's doing to enable that. We have Teslas that can drive themselves. So why are other automotive makers behind pace on that? And yet, proprietary software is now being challenged. The companies are being descaled. They're being less proprietary. They have to be forced to sharing. I mentioned earlier a verb of Google it. Everybody does it today. It's the primary way that most people attach to the internet. It's the primary way that I connect with what I'm purchasing, what I'm doing, what I'm looking up, where I'm traveling. My source of advice. Would anyone have thought that Microsoft is now one of the top searches? Because they have ChatGPT. It's been an area now that people are using to ask their questions, to get holistic answers rather than an A-B response. They get something that was synthesized for them, personalized for them. It's challenging the way that we get response mechanisms. Dan, actually, I loved his waves. You were talking about the waves and evolutions that you saw. I witnessed all three, even if we have an age difference. But I would say there was also a wave of social media. Social media was a wave that was encapsulated within the devices. And I look at it with pro athletes. Look at how the athleticism has changed. The recent Olympics, what they're able to do because of the data that's available. The fact that I can watch YouTube when I'm 4 years old and learn how to shoot a hockey puck, as my Canadian roots will do, that will change the way that the players play tomorrow. Are the players today better than they were back then? Was Michael Jordan still the GOAT? We can challenge that, but it was different skills, and we see AI enabling that as we remove these barriers.
I want to bring on the concept of recursion. So thank you, Andrew. I see recursion from the perspective that, yes, we're talking about ethics and we're talking about ethical considerations around the person, around the organization. And then I want to take that up to the ecosystem. But first, the organization. How many of our organizations actually have implemented a policy around AI? So, very good. What about the audience? How many of amongst in the audience organizations that have AI policies? For example, are you allowed to put your customer data up into the cloud? Can you put that? Big organizations have that. What about those that are smaller? So now you take that into the ecosystem before you talk about AI acts and laws, etc. Then that creates a whole new circle of concern with bias, discrimination, inclusivity, sustainability. But that is talking about the dark side of the force. I think Ash, we were discussing that a little bit as well. But and WCIT is coming out with a position paper on the global AI ecosystem network. So we want to take it beyond use cases, but into a framework that has 7 components. Very quickly, these are AI infrastructure. So you think about processing power, it's not just for the firm. What about small and medium-sized businesses? They are the backbone of the economy. If they do not have access to infrastructure, does that mean that they lose out? How do the governments and ecosystems make sure that their economic backbone is catered for? The second thing is data. We talked about the need to have a policy that protects data. The third one is AI entrepreneurs. How do you incentivize innovations that emerge from each of the ecosystem's AI entrepreneurs? The next one that is critical is policy. So whether it's an AI from the EU point of view or American or Eastern, etc., that is critical. Use cases, we talked a bit about that. Talent, the human resource was one of the panel discussions earlier, but it's about talent. So talent breeds ingenuity, and of course it can lead to the dark side of the force. Finally, I've not heard so much yet, but investments. Domestic investments, foreign direct investments, how do that lead to economic development with AI, to job creation, to even wealth for the next generation. So we're interested in all of that. We put it all together into a framework, and Monday is when we are launching that. So we hope to have you join us as well. Thank you.
Amazing. And then Badr, I think you actually waved a little bit a few seconds ago. Is there anything you would like to add to this?
Yes, actually, I mentioned a little bit earlier that we need to anticipate all these regulations and to understand what's going on, responsible AI and fairness. This is a first step, but there is a second step, which is the process itself. We need to be fair towards the financial sector itself, meaning that we need to embrace an incentive-based paradigm. We can't actually have the same attitude towards a bank that is starting its own business and an existing bank with an important cash flow. We should take into consideration the process also in order to better understand how the banks, today the banks are, let's say, play a key role in order to fund the economy, in order to, let's say, support society entirely. I mean, but we need also to understand that they are struggling today with all these regulations. For example, in Europe, all these European regulations are, let's say, too heavy to support. And for banks, it's always, I mean, a missing opportunity. You know, they need to focus on new strategy in order to better compete with the other banks, but they can't with these regulations. And today, we need to implement, we need to propose new set of regulation that will take into consideration, the individual evolution and the individual compliance of each bank towards fairness. And this is why it's so challenging, because first of all, we need to define what's fairness. And we have so many definitions around this concept. And yeah, this should be, in my point of view, the most important topic we should cover in the upcoming years. Fairness, transparency, explainability with AI.
Amazing. We're actually a little bit short in time, but I was wondering that maybe for closing remarks, how all of our panelists think of the future of AI in the business, starting with you, Andrew.
No, it's a fantastic question, also a very difficult one. I like the analogy of a gun got invented in a knife fight, and it's exactly that. But you know, I think it's challenging every company to think differently. What I want you guys to maybe leave with on my closing remark is a company as large as Visa. The way that I'm helping all the clients today, actually banks are obviously some of our top clients, but Visa's partnered with like the Olympics. We partner with sports teams. We partner with Disney World, believe it or not. And we do projects for Marriott Bonvoy. We're thinking about AI and we're helping them revolutionize their loyalty program, how you guys interact with it, because we see money as the end experience. We see it as how do we connect with you? How should AI be servicing you? And I believe that's where we should start with. That will give us all of our ethics issues. That will help with compliance, because with the rise of fintechs, you see AI investments, you see AI payments. All of these things are surrounded to do what? Service the human, service the person. If we keep that true as our North Star, everything we design, everything we do will be centralized around that.
Amazing. And Hamid, if you can keep it like in 30
Just
seconds.
question to the audience. How many entrepreneurs here? Many entrepreneurs here. So I believe in second revolution was internet 2004. If you are an entrepreneur, you need to have website. So your business model is website. Then we have the smartphones came out. Then when you build your startups is website and mobile application in iOS, Android, and even Huawei now. Today or the future, how it's gonna go? You need to build your website, your apps, and it should be powered by AI. This is the future. So as example, if your startup idea is about CRM, it have to be powered by AI to enhance portfolio of the customer and target the right customer at the right time with the right product. So the future for any business model, or it's going to be very hard to build a competitive advantage, it should be powered by AI.
Amazing. And Badr?
Yeah, there is some good news. Actually, we do think that all these artificial systems implemented and so on will be going to replace humans in general. But this is a fake idea, fake thought. Let me explain why. There is what we call the Baumol effect. When you have a company, you need to do business, to make some cash, make revenues and so on. And you need capital, human capital, and money. Thanks to these two variables, you make revenues, right? You make outcomes, okay? If you do implement artificial intelligence, you will have an automation rate that is going to increase over time. And we all have this biased approach, thinking that actually we will arrive at a certain threshold where the automation rate will equal to 100%, meaning that we will not need humans anymore. But this is not true, because back then when we do analyze history, we see that after a specific threshold, after exceeding 90% of the automation rate, we need to hire again because we need new commercial activities. If you want new commercial activities, you need to hire again human capital, meaning that this automation rate will again decrease over time. And after a new emergence of a new technology or new development of artificial intelligence, this automation rate will increase again. But this cycle explains pretty much clearly that humans will not be excluded from the financial sector, and it's on us, of course, to develop this dynamic.
Amazing. Wahid?
For me, I look at those different waves of technology, and I'm old enough where I was born where there was no computers, there was no internet, there was no mobile, and I got to see all of it. And I feel like AI is all of those transformations, and if you think about the scale of those impacts, I think AI is going to be bigger than all of them put together, and I think it's going to happen faster than any of those happened. And if that's true, then every single business that exists in the world today will be impacted by it. I think even us in the technology world are underappreciating the magnitude of change that's going to happen. In my opinion, the world of tomorrow is going to look significantly different than it does today. And what that means is every single change that happens is an opportunity for an entrepreneur to build a business. So for me, there hasn't been a more exciting time than right now to build a business, to take an idea and think about how to turn it into reality, because we're in a moment of extraordinary change. And I think every entrepreneur in this room should be thinking about how they can be a part of that.
Amazing.
I think you're exactly right. I think he's exactly right, that it is an opportunity for every entrepreneur, not only the ones here in the room, but all of your competitors. So if you're not in production with AI today, like my company is, you need to go faster. If you need help accelerating, I can help. You've got folks here on the panel that are all eager to see you be successful. There are great tools online. If you're not sure which use cases are applicable, Google just put out a list of 190 of them. Happy to walk you through it. I think it's critical that you prioritize this kind of change over maybe other changes you've evaluated because of just how big that impact will be.
Amazing.
I
And
think
not the least,
the single word I think of is smile. So if you think about the value chain of from data center at the left side all the way to the end customer on the right, and you plot the value add to the stage of the value chain, you see that you'll probably be a lopsided smile in terms of how much value add. Right now, we're seeing the trillion-dollar companies actually making most of that value at the left side. And from that smile, I think two other words emerge. For me, it is fungible tokens. Fungibility, I love that word. How do you repurpose the tokens such that they fit into that element of the value chain? So how do you take from the left all the way to the customer on the right? Because that's where the real value lies. Thank you.
Amazing, fantastic. And on that note, thanks everyone for joining us. Just round of applause for our panelists.
Welcome to WCIT DigiTec, Yerevan, Armenia.